as the member of the at-large committee, will continue until 2026 as well. Then we have some ex-official members of our committee. They are voting members, with the exception of Pastor Christie. And Jean Jacobson, the council president, was unable to be here today, and she's not feeling well. But Jean is a voting member of the Endowment Committee. And then serving as treasurer of the church council is Sylvia Lewis, and Sylvia is a voting member of our committee as well. And Kevin Malsheen, who was not able to be with us today, is the liaison from the council, and Kevin is a voting member of the committee as well. And then finally, Pastor Christie serves as a member of the committee as a non-voting member of our committee. So thanks to the committee members, because we've had a busy couple of years with this committee. Now, due to the fact that the bylaws expect us to meet 4 times a year, and the fact that we have a committee that has a busy schedule separate in their personal lives and work, why we have gone ahead and we have scheduled all the meetings for 2025 as shown here. And they are subject to a change, but it was good to get those on the calendar, so we have them there. Okay. The committee for the past year and a half has been very busy. Busy from the standpoint that we were preparing our charter/bylaws to be merged with the church's bylaws. And as a part of that process, there were some kind of highlights here that we'd like to share with you. We prepared a more condensed version of the original charter, but remained with the intent of the original charter. We established some much-needed distribution guidelines, and Dave is going to talk about those on a slide that's going to be coming up here in a few minutes. We combined accounts within both the old church and the scholarship endowments. We had some kind of smaller accounts, and it just made sense to combine those. We developed guidelines for newest endowments to be established. And finally, we updated the endowment application forms, and those application forms, if they haven't gone out yet, will be going out soon, because they are due back February 15th for the first round of applications. They are available on the website now and at the kiosk. Okay, thank you. At this point, I've asked Pastor Christie if she would kind of highlight the general endowment recipients and also the scholarship recipients from the past year.
Hello, everyone. You can see the grand total on this slide, but it's more interesting to see exactly what got purchased. So we've got a slide for each one of them now. For Pastor Mark's graduate study, this is for his degree in psychological counseling. I don't remember the exact title, but as of May, when he graduates, he would be a licensed counselor. So that's what this money goes for. Doesn't he look so studious there at his desk? All right, and we gave money to Mustard Seed to buy some more newer fidget toys to keep the kids' interest when needed in the classrooms. And we also had Mike and Ron help a lot to rebuild the choir loft flooring, as well as lay this pretty new flooring up there. If you were ever up there before, it was not the most usable space because it had pews that were built in. You couldn't move them. Now we can move to the bells tables in here. We got the digital piano and the organ, more usable locations, those kinds of things. So again, thanks to Mike and Ron for the work on that. Thanks, Mike. And then for our graduate recognitions from high school, every year they ones that are active get a quilt that's handmade by the church ladies, but everyone is invited to come to the service and be blessed in worship. As a family, the parents would then be handed one of these blankets then to hand to the kids. So we've had them all embroidered for the next number of years, right? It's cheaper to get embroidery done in bulk. So we bought a bulk lot of these blankets, and these blankets are done for the next number of years. And then we also redid the youth room with one of their grants. They bought the new table that's at one end, the new couches. If you were up there before, we had hand-me-downs up there from people's houses. There were big holes in couches and things like that. So this is all fresh furniture, beanbags, the cubbies along the side, all of those new things to hold and to welcome our youth in that space. And choir even got to use it on Christmas Eve this year. They had their party in that room. And downstairs, we were using the old projector from up here for our jam program, but it had faded over time. The picture wasn't real bright anymore, so they asked for a new one. This is with the lights on. You could still see the picture. That was a new thing for down there. So we had Kristen take this picture a couple weeks ago so you could see the kids' interest in the new screen. And we bought the TV and Blu-ray player for the conference room upstairs, so if we have programming in that room, we have our brain health programming once a month, and she uses this DVD player with her resources for that class. Council can use it to put things up on the screen. Anybody who uses that space has access now to the tech. You can plug a computer in up there, just like I did down here. And then the digital pianos. Peter Dene had a contact at a place that sells these pianos, so we got them at a discount, 2 of them for this price, delivered and everything. So it was a good price. The bigger one to fill the space of the sanctuary, and a slightly smaller one for the rehearsal room. And these are the scholarship winners from last year as well. So all of these kids, they're not all kids anymore, but these young adults received the $500 scholarship, and you can see if you look through the different programmings we support: orthopedics, nursing, some freshmen that still are undecided, education, lots of things get funded here, so we're proud of all of these young people as well. And I'll turn it over to Dave, who talks about the...
Good morning. So one of the things that Gary talked about, are the changes that the Endowment Committee has made this last year, is a more clear and defined way to determine how much money we can distribute each year out of the endowment funds. We have a general endowment fund, we have a scholarship fund, and we have a fund that is for, what's the third one? I'm drawing a blank. The Old Church on the Hill. The Old Church on the Hill, we basically will fund as needed. Whereas the scholarship fund, we have an application once per year for that. And the general endowment fund, we have 2 application periods now. One is February 15th, and the other is October 15th. And then we make a distribution the following month in March, November. In the past, prior years here, there's been 1 application time and 1 distribution. So we split this up a little bit. To make it easier to determine how much money we're going to give out, what we've done is we've basically decided to take the last 3 years end of the year report balances, average those out. So here we are in 2024, 2023, and 2022. We take an average of those, add them up, divide them by 3, and then we apply our 4% distribution. What we've decided to do with this is that way, if you have years where the stock market does well and our value goes up, or the opposite, the stock market goes down, our value goes down, rather than just taking 1 year and deciding what we're going to distribute from that, we take an average of the 3 that kind of allows for the ups and downs of the stock market. The 4% is based off of a value that we don't want to get too much money handed out, that our total funds are going down. As we hope that this continues to grow, we've got measures in place, so when it gets to certain values, I think when it gets to $1 million, then we give out 5%, and hopefully as it keeps growing, we'll be able to give out more and more, but we never want to give out too much of the fund and run the risk of the fund value going down. So For this coming year in 2025, based off of this formula, we can give out just a little over $27,000 in endowments. And for scholarships, we've got a little over $3,000 there. Any questions on that? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I did make a comment. So these funds are invested with our Thrivent representative. The money's held with Fidelity. And the money this year in 2024 for those three funds, for the scholarship, Church on the Hill, and the general endowment, the return was just over 10.5%. Okay.
As we conclude our portion of the program here, I wanted to talk a little bit about support for the endowments. And I think the concern I have is how do we encourage continued financial support of our endowment fund? I want to quickly share a couple of numbers with you. During the past 5 years, we have had contributions in the amount of $3,786 given to the general endowment fund. During that 5 years, we have made available $109,000 plus for grants. So you can see the importance of our investments and having those investments grow, because that's the only way we're able to distribute those kinds of funds. However, the committee, we're very interested in growing that principle as well. And so what I'd like to ask, whether it's those of you that are here, that are out in the audience, looking at this online, we need ideas on how we can grow these funds. And my suggestion is, if you have some ideas, that you would contact a committee member or myself and share those, because that's one of our objectives, is to grow the principle of our endowments. At this time, we've invited Scott Herman from the Thrivent office to spend some time. I guess basically I'd call it strategies for church-related giving. So Scott, go ahead if you would.
I know pastors Christy and Mark always get challenged to make sure that sermons are tight. So to leave them a little bit of, take some pressure off of them, we're going to be here for 3 hours. No, just kidding. I don't have any good jokes, but I have a lot of them, so that's good. So as we talk about the current tax code and how we can make a bigger impact, and then, you know, we give because it's the right thing to do, and all of the things that happen from the endowment in the church, in the community, in the greater world is fantastic. So we always want to keep making sure that we're supporting that and allowing it to continue to grow. So when the tax laws came in, the current ones that we're operating under in 2017, many people weren't able to itemize anymore because the standard deduction went up so high. Does anyone know on your tax returns, do you itemize, or are you just filing? So by a show of hands, who takes a standard deduction? Most people. So one of the things that happens, because that standard deduction is so high, I know one of the things that I used to do prior to this is I would lump my property taxes like every other year, right? Anybody ever heard of doing that? Like you do your property taxes? So if you can coordinate your property taxes and your charitable giving in similar years, sometimes you can find yourself opening up that ability to do itemized deduction. So that's one of the things when we visit with our clients, we'll talk about strategies about if that might be something that might work for you. And I don't have a disclaimer slide, so all of the things we're talking about here are just ideas. They're not specific recommendations, so don't go out and do everything that I said. Talk to your tax professional, talk to your attorney, talk to your financial professional. If you haven't had any conversations like that with your financial professional, you might want to have a better one like us down in Burlington. There's my plug. So the other thing, if you are over 70 and a half, so the IRA, the IRS has rules on IRAs that say after 70 and a half, you were forced to take out money out of your pre-tax IRAs. With the tax law in 2017 and 18, it actually changed so that you were either 73 or 75, but they didn't eliminate at 70 and a half the ability to do a qualified charitable distribution. So what you're able to do, you don't get to deduct it, but you can take money out of your IRA and you can send it directly to the church, and it does not show up on your tax return. So many times in the beginning of the year, and you maybe see this with receipts that come in, people can send money right from the IRA right to the church, and the person that sent the money does not have to claim that on their tax return. So in effect, if you're not itemizing, it just allows you to reduce your overall income. The other thing that we see a lot of with clients is if they work at companies or if they have a non-qualified and after-tax portfolio, you can actually take, let's say you bought a few shares of Apple and you only spent $20 on it and now it's worth, $10,000. You could actually take those shares of Apple and you could gift them right to an account at the church. And when they receive it, and it could be received by the endowment fund, you get the full $10,000 or whatever it's worth deduction, and you don't have to realize the tax bill. So you don't have to sell it. You can gift it directly to a nonprofit organization and or the church endowment. So that's another way that you can do current giving. And other times people think about, well, I want to make sure that I leave a legacy. And there's inside of the folder, there's a lot of things that I'm talking about. So if you have more questions about that, you can give us a call at the office or talk to me briefly afterwards. But there are a few ways to do what are called plan giving. So if does anybody have a life insurance, like a whole life or a permanent life insurance policy? A lot of times people say, hey, I want to leave that to the church, but I would say you should leave that to your loved ones. Leave part of your IRA to the church. Because if you leave an IRA to your loved ones, they will still have to pay tax on it when they liquidate it. But if they have a life insurance proceeds or Roth IRA proceeds, they won't have to pay tax on it. So I always want to make sure that I pay my fair share of taxes. But if I can use tax laws that are in place to benefit things and organizations and people that I care about, I mean, I wouldn't want to live in any other country than the U.S., but I only want to pay my fair share, not a penny more. So by leaving your IRAs to church or charity and life insurance or Roth IRAs, they're great to leave to your loved ones. So those are a few of the, so that's following along the beneficiary designation. And then I did put a printout. Interest rates have been better. When I was growing up, I always remember CDs were regularly 6%. I never had much money to put in them back then, but now we had seen a long period, 10, 12 years, where CD rates were horrible. And they've been decent here for the last 2 years. But if rates start to drop down again, another thing that if you are charitable, I put a printout of this in the front. I did this for another customer of mine. And he was just looking at different ways to be charitable. He wanted to get a little bit of better income. So we did what's called a charitable gift annuity. And the payout rate for a 74-year-old is actually 6.8%. So what happens if you put $100,000 in? That was the illustration I did. You get a significant deduction on the front end, and then you get guaranteed income for the rest of your life. But then at the end, there will be some money left, and then that could go to the church endowment or to any other charity that you would designate. So there's a lot of different strategies and ideas that we work with clients, and we're happy to help support that. I'm just really excited to see the committee doing all the work that they're doing here, and growing an endowment is a great way for the sustainability and the future of the church as well. So that concludes this part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Scott. I guess as we conclude here, though, if there's anybody that has questions for the committee or for Scott, this would be a good time to ask them. If not, a couple of items in closing out here. Scott has shared a brochure, which there are a number of copies here, and we've asked that they be left here at the church. Dave will have them in the office. Pastor Christie will have them in the office. We could even put a few out here probably on the kiosk, so that if you're interested in a little more information about the presentation today and you were unable to attend, why you could pick up one of these folders. So I think that concludes our presentation, unless committee members have some additional comments that they'd like to make. I'd like to thank the committee members. We've had a busy schedule, as I mentioned earlier, as far as meetings are concerned, and we got a busy schedule ahead of us, because we are going to be receiving applications soon to read through and make some decisions. So thanks again.